Welcome to Insights in Sound, where we talk to the people behind the scenes, behind the technology, and behind the music. People you may not know, but you should. And please check out getitInWriting.net/shows for a full list of our podcast YouTube series.
Welcome to Insights in Sound live from the NAMM show floor. My guests are Ross Hogarth and CJ Vanston, and we are talking about the happy accidents. We're talking about what happens after you painstakingly go through pre-production and plan everything out just so, which never happens either. And then, all of a sudden, something comes out of the blue, and you go, no, wait, yeah.
Well, CJ, haven't both of our careers been just one big happy accident?
All of
Pretty
our careers
much.
have been.
I mean,
Pretty
come on.
much.
The first thing that popped to mind, honestly, was going back to the 80s. We took the design of Rumbo Studios and built a studio for John Mellencamp that he still records in called Belmont Mall. And Kenny Aronoff and I went in there and set up and had to get a drum sound, and we worked on moving the drums around and got the drums, got what we thought was a killer drum sound. And then we were going to track, and when you track, you got to put up a bunch of 57s for talkback mics so people can talk. And I'm not really thinking about these mics because they're all over the room, just where people are standing. And the band starts to play, and everything sounds absolutely freaking awesome. And we do a take, and John's like, hey, how's that sound? And I'm like, it sounds great. And he comes in. Now these talkback mics are not routed to tape. So what I was hearing was like a majority of the sound were these 57s all over the room, just randomly thrown up in places in front of people. Now when you play back what's on tape, those 57s aren't routed
Not
to
what
tape.
everybody was hearing.
Oh, yeah.
And so it wasn't, so I was like kind of freaked out because it sounded kind of like a bit anemic compared to. And John looks at me and he's like, what the hell,
What happened?
what happened? And I realized pretty quickly that I had to route these talkback mics to tape
And record them.
to
So
get the
just
sound
as room mics, basically, as
Yeah.
ambient. Yeah.
because they were just there as talkback mics. So talk about a happy accident that became the drum sound.
Well, that's interesting, though, because, yes, it was an accident, but do you know how many engineers would have not noticed that and would have never recorded those talkback mics? And the fact that you recognized that and took that accident and ran with it
Yeah, because, I mean, there is
says
this.
a lot about you, Ross.
Oh, well, thank you, CJ. And I love you, dude. I mean, there is that famous, basically, and this is my version of what is the SSL Crush compressor. That is the talkback compressor on the SSL
Yeah.
that was
yeah.
being used where they routed it for the Phil Collins drum sound and all that. This was, none of us knew that at the time. And for me, it was just the fact that these microphones were capturing the room in some positions you'd never put them in if you were trying to think through I'm going to put the mic here.
Totally random.
That reminds me of a story. Actually, the first song I did when I moved to LA, I had been doing jingles in Chicago for 10 years. I was the first call guy there for a long time. Thousands of jingles, thousands and thousands. It was a great training ground because you basically got an hour to cut a whole piece. And my sight reading was good, and it became a great training ground. Anyway, I came out to LA, and the first song I recorded in LA was Right Here Waiting for Richard Marx. And it was a gigantic hit. So the thought was it's not going to go on the record. This is a side thing. Richard didn't think it fit his style. And I got my demo done, and he put a vocal on it. And everybody that heard it said, this is the single. Not only is this on the record, it's the single. And that's what I felt all along. And so he said, yeah, let's put it on the record. And then as we started, building the record, everybody realized this is got that smash kind of sound to it. So I said, it starts with a do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, the little piano thing. I said, you need an intro before that, like a handle on the front of it. It's kind of cinematic. I've got something in my head cinematic, right? And David Cole was the producer, and he goes, well, there's no tape. There's just very little tape in the beginning of the thing. I said, roll it back. Give me a cue when the leader goes by. White tape, white tape, white tape. So I got a pad sound. I improvised this part. Da, 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 da. I mean, he gave me the cue. The leader goes by and he goes, okay. Da, 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 da. I'm holding the note and we're all looking at each other, and when's it going to come in? You couldn't have moved it a frame. It was exactly perfect. It was one of those moments, and that's what the record is. It was one take, something nobody wanted. There was not enough tape, and I think that record sold 13 million copies or something. So.
And the timing of it is really what's the happy accident more than anything else.
Well, plus I improvised the part off the top of my head, so it was like everybody thought it was a throwaway. Oh, let's let CJ do his thing so he's happy, and then it ends up, oh, that's going on the record.
Now you work with some rather impromptu artists. I mean, the Van Halens of the world. That stuff was not scripted, right?
No, those guys, they would go in and play every day, and we would just record everything. I mean, the lesson that I learned early on is to be in record at all times.
Oh yeah.
You're never not in record. No matter what the artist says, you're always in record. You're in record before you're set up. You're just always in.
Even if your levels aren't up, who cares? Something's recording.
And I was making a record with Keb Mo, one of the first. I think it might have been the third one. We won a Grammy on the first couple. So anyway, we were tracking and we got a track, and Keb Mo says, we're gonna take a break. I'm just gonna teach Reggie and Laval his bass and drums. We're gonna just teach him this song. Don't record it. Don't worry about it. And I had to put up another reel of tape anyway. And so he goes out in the room. As I'm putting up the reel of tape, I hear them start to play, and I don't have the reel on yet. Like, I got to get the reel on, and I got to put it through the heads, and so I don't even spool it off, because normally you got to spool it backwards. So I just now quickly change the reels over so that the tape is I have something to record. And they're playing a 12-bar blues, and I just go into record the minute I got tape on the reel, and I have no idea what I got. I just know that I'm in record.
Right.
And so Kevin, what ends up happening, long story short, is that they play this whole song down. I mean, and even the drummer had his snares off, so he's playing like a timbali snare until he realizes it. And then he realizes it, but he's like, well, I'm not going to turn this on in the middle of a verse.
That'd be weird.
He kicks it on right before the chorus as if that was planned, but it never was.
I love it.
But he's like thinking, and so he kicks the snare in, and we get to the end of the song, and Keb Mo looks into the control room, and he looks at me, and my look on my face is, I don't know what the heck I got. Like, it's not like I'm not pissed or anything. I'm just really kind of praying to God
Kinda
I got.
Fascinated to hear it back, right?
And he looks in and he goes, "Do you record that?" He goes, "You did, and you're not happy about it, are you?" and this is on his mic and all. So he comes in, and literally like what you're talking, the bias ramp of the tape machine and because this is like a 12-bar with like an anticipation, it creates a 12-bar intro instead of like it would have been like, I don't know how many bars, because they played it around a few times. And the bias ramp creates the downbeat like, ga-down, down, don't, down, don't. Like, and literally that becomes the song with no overdubs. And when I mixed it, you can hear Keb Mo at the end of the the song, go, "Did you record that?"
They left that on.
And we just left it on.
That's
for
perfect.
you.
Perfect.
The song is called "Letters to Tracy." It's on Slow Down, which
That's fabulous.
and that is like there was nothing else to do, and it was funny because he took us all out to like ribs. He was so happy about it. He was like, we were going out to lunch, man. It was just one of those moments where like literally the bias ramp created the intro.
You saved a whole day's worth of work.
Just yeah, because
You're done.
it was
Lunchtime.
me just being. I knew I had to get that thing and record whatever
for
I was
you.
gonna get. I was gonna get.
Well, and one thing that both of you guys have experienced is you're playing with such good players that it's almost it's harder to have something happen by accident because everything's good, except when it's not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I've got a story. It's not in the studio, but I still would like to tell it. So I'd moved to town and I'd done Right Here Waiting, and so then Richard had me arrange this whole record, and the phone started ringing. And hi, my name's Phil Ramone. Hi, my name's Desmond Child. It was just it was a great way to start here, and I got a gig doing a showcase for an artist at the Roxy. I was a keyboard player. So we went to sound check, and I had these giant racks full of synthesizers. My sounds were really deep sounds. That was kind of one of my fortes. And we finished sound check, and the sound man walked up, and he goes, "Who the fuck are you?" I said, "Well, I'm CJ Vanston." He goes, "Where'd you come from?" I said, "I just moved to town." He goes, "Man, my boss would love you." I said, "Who's your boss?" He said, "Don Henley."
Ooh.
Don Henley's your boss. He says, "Yeah," and he's having auditions for his tour. He's doing a world tour, and it was the End of the Innocence record, which is just a brilliant record. And one of the songs on that is The End of the Innocence, which is the Bruce Hornsby song. When Bruce Hornsby came out, people were telling me, "Hey, there's a guy out there that sounds like you," because I had always played that gospel kind of stuff, piano, So to me, it was like, okay, this is meant to happen. So I went to the auditions. I think there were like 40 guys or something like that, and I got a call back. And now there's 20 guys. Then I got a call back, and now there's 5 guys. And I got a fourth call back. And we did the last time through. I'm running the same song. We did New York Minute, which is a beautiful song written by Danny Korchmar. And Don says, "Let's run End of the Innocence again." I said, "Yeah, good." And the drummer's counted off, and he goes, "Hey, wait a minute, Bruce!" And I turned and looked behind me, and Bruce Hornsby's standing right behind me.
Oops.
And the drummer's counting off. I looked at him and I went, "Fuck you!" Standing behind me while I'm auditioning his song. I'm very competitive, so I just played it better. And I killed it. And I got the gig. I got the gig with Don Henley. And I knew I had the gig. So I went home. Sure enough, a couple days later, the phone rings. "Hi, this is so-and-so at Don Henley's manager. We'd like to tell you Don has chosen you to be his keyboard player for the world tour." I said, "Oh, well, great." I kind of had a feeling I was going to get the gig. And they said, "But there's one stipulation. Don would like you to shave your beard." And I said, "What?" They said, "Well, he'd like you to shave your beard." I said, "Well, I might wake up someday and look in the mirror and say, I think I'll shave my beard, but I'm certainly not going to shave my beard because someone else asked me to." "Well, it's actually one of the prerequisites of the gig." I said, "Well, I'm not shaving my beard. Sorry." So I know I got the gig anyway. They're just playing with me. I hung up. I didn't get the gig. They gave the gig to the second guy, who was a great player.
And clean shaven.
Yeah, no beard. And I was crushed. I thought, I've just ruined my career. This is my big chance. And I was so down. I was just, for days, weeks. So a couple weeks later, Katie Segal from Married with Children, who's a very, very good singer, and sweet lady, amazing person, was at a party with Don Henley, and she says, I'm putting a band together, and I need a musical director and keyboard player. And he goes, "Well, I know a great guy, but he's got an ugly fucking beard."
What if you'd only shaved like this side?
Well, this is what would have happened, I'll
and
tell
then
you.
played.
There you
Hang
go.
on.
Just turn the
There's a
other
punchline
cheek,
coming
right?
up. Punchline coming up. So, Katie hires me. She gives me a cassette. That's how long ago this was. This would be 89. And I wrote charts for all 12 songs, and I demoed all 12 songs. And so she says, my drummer's coming over to meet you and wants to start doing pre-production. So I wrote charts. I got demos. The door opens. It's Russ Kunkel is the drummer. I go, you're Russ Kunkel? He goes, yeah. And I said, oh, my God. Dude, are you kidding? You're in this band? Yeah. Whoa. Okay, this is amazing. So he sits down. I said, well, here's the chart of the first song. Hit play. It starts playing. He goes, stop. I go, what? Stop. I go, what's wrong? He goes, what am I listening to? I said, well, that's the demo. No. Who did this? I said, I did. What? Yeah, but who did the drums? I did. Who did the bass? I said, Russ, I did everything. Who wrote these charts? They're the prettiest charts I've ever seen. I said, I wrote those. You did all this? I said, yeah. And he goes, I've got 2 people to introduce you to. He introduced me to Greg Ladani, which led to 20 years of making records with Greg, which led to Toto, and he introduced me to Christopher Guest, which led to Spinal Tap. And then I hear the tour was a complete pain in the ass because Don, God bless him, he's an amazing musician. He's a stickler that everything has to be the same every single night, and there's notes under the hotel room door. Like, I wouldn't even made it through that tour.
No accidents.
So by not shaving my beard, it set up a huge portion of my whole career. I know it's a long story, but but the reason all my stories are long. But the reason I'm saying that I think these are accidents we're talking about, but there's intuition involved in these accidents.
Yeah.
I had an
Good
intuition.
point.
Anybody that's going to tell me to shave my beard is probably going to ask me to do some other stuff I don't want to do. And the fact that you had an intuition that I better put that tape up and get it rolling, and I better record those 57 talkback mics. That's not just 100% accident.
That's true, and that's I think what I really want to focus on is the idea that these accidents happen because A, we're open to them, and B, we're prepared to make something of them when they do happen.
Well, you just mentioned Toto, and I got to bring up our buddy Luke, Steve Lukather.
Now there's
That's
like
That's
master
funny.
of accidents.
Whenever anybody says, "Hey, I want to bring up Luke," everybody starts laughing. Is the first thing they do.
It's exactly
Well, and
because you know there's a story there.
He's amazing.
and Luke will actually appreciate this one because I just made this I didn't just took 3 years, but the record that came out recently, the Brother Johnny Edgar Winter
Oh yeah,
Contemporary Blues Record of the Year. We won a Grammy for that, and Luke plays on Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. So and Luke plays with Ringo and Edgar in the Ringo band. So getting Luke to come into play was not.
That was a Rick Derringer song.
Yeah, it's Rick,
Yeah,
who was, Rick was in Johnny's band, produced Edgar's. They Only Come Out at Night. And,
What a record!
yeah.
and so anyway, so when we were picking songs, we decided to have Luke play on Hoochie Coo, which he was so really stoked. He comes in, and Luke is that guy who can burn one solo, and it's the greatest solo ever. And then he burns 2 or 3, and you have 3 of the greatest solos ever. But the thing about Hoochie Coo is, like, everyone's played that song. It's a song that all guitar players have played. And so, Luke played his 3 amazing solos, and, it's like, what else are you going to do? So, for me, a big part of the studio is we call it the hang. You got to have the hang.
Yep.
The hang is the hang. And
It builds the music.
And we hadn't had
Yes.
the hang because Luke came in, he set
Went
up,
right to work.
got a sound, went right to work, and there was no hang. So I knew that we had to have a hang, and maybe there's something else behind the hang. So I paused, and I turned to Luke to create the hang. I turned to Luke and I go, "Tell Edgar about your favorite TV show." And Luke goes, "Well, you know my favorite TV show. It's Ancient Aliens." And I go, "Well," Edgar doesn't really watch TV. Tell him about Ancient Aliens.
Oh my God!
So Luke
God.
goes off for the next 15 minutes.
Oh, only 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was like at least 15 talking about Ancient Aliens, which is this. I won't get into it, but this show is really freaking whack. It's so whack. It's amazingly whack. And so Edgar is just laughing and listening and going, "There's a show that's yeah." And so we go through the hang about Ancient Aliens, and then and then Luke's like, "I should get out of here. I should pack up and go." And I go, "Well, how about can we just like burn another one, man? And Luke's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So now his head's in Ancient Aliens, and what he plays over the solo, it's what's on the record. And when you listen to the record, he's channeling Ancient Aliens. He goes so far out. Like, you got to hear the CJ. Like, he's playing the farthest note in a chord, the farthest extension you can even get in the chord on the second half of the solo. And he just holds that note, and he's like hitting the bar, and it's wiggling. And it's just, and so that solo goes down, and Luke goes, man, that's crap. And both Edgar and I are like, whoa, what are you thinking? This is the greatest outside shit. It's like the Coltrane moment. Like it's, and so that's what we have on the record. It's
Good
Luke
man.
channeling Ancient Aliens. You don't get that if you don't get the hang.
Got to have the hang. But there is so much intuition. You look back and you realize a lot of these accidents you did without thinking, and you did stuff without thinking. And it's really when you get out of your own way. Don't you agree that when you stop, if you thought rationally, you wouldn't have done it that way?
Well, you talked about, your story is so perfect about, like, when people actually do us a favor, we don't even know they're doing us a favor. But it's sort of like that thing is like, if you think your cup is half empty or half full, if you walk around think your cup is half empty, you pour it into a smaller cup and stop bitching about it. It's like
exactly what it is.
You know what I mean?
You just took the words out of my mouth.
Yes, just a different cup, man.
And you were talking about, like, Henley, not like the whole thing about the shaving thing, and being a metaphor for someone who's going to make you be somebody you don't want to be. So you're not going to be the best version of yourself anyway, because you're already going into a gig having to people please yourself into like a pretzel over it.
I never processed that. I never went through that whole thought process. I just said no, and it was a visceral just. And then I thought back, like, that was, matter of fact, when I talk to kids, when I do these panels so I do panels at NAMM and AES for a lot of kids. When I say kids, under 50, basically. No, but the students, and I just say, you're taught so much of this analog stuff. Follow this rule. This is the scale. This is the chord. This is the proper EQ. But there's a gut thing that you really got to pay attention to, and if you don't have that, you're probably not going to make it in the business anyway, because that's where so much of it comes from, is right at the gut,
It's true. And what you were saying earlier about getting out of your own way. I mean, the same way that when you talk to these young people, I mean, I talk to a lot of them too, and there's always this idea of, I know what I'm going to do. I know what my career is going to be. I know exactly where I'm headed.
Oh, my God.
And, it's the same thing with making a record, creating any kind of content. You think you know what you have in mind, but being open to anything going a different way, whether it's a career path or whether it's a creative decision, isn't that what makes those cool, unique experiences happen?
100%. A lot of the best gigs I ever did were things I didn't really want to do, or someone got sick, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, opportunity is like often disguised as hard work. The best the best things that have happened, or a lot of the best things that have happened in my life, they were just disguised as hard work, and I happened to say yes to them because, everyone else is saying no to it, and you're like, I'm gonna do that. If that looks like hard, I learned that if that looks like work, that if that feels and looks like work, it's probably got something behind the door that what's behind door number one.
Yeah, and a lot of times those things that you're saying yes, other people have said no, you know, what do they say? Fools rush in. You know, it's like we end up with these great opportunities because we didn't say no.
And I think I'm still back on like CJ's story, like thinking about one of the greatest things that happens in life is when you start to know what you don't know, but you know yourself a little better. You don't really. I can't profess I know tomorrow at all. No one knows I have no idea what tomorrow's going to be. I don't. If anyone says they know about tomorrow, I want them to go pick the lottery ticket. I want to go with them to Vegas or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start to know, like what you're talking about is like that people-pleasing thing that can wrap us in a pretzel, and we do stuff that we really shouldn't be doing because it's really not going to serve us.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be, like, I'd rather be around people where we celebrate each other rather than just tolerate each other. And you got to kind of know, you got to know something about who you're working with or who you're saying yes to. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, I mean, I've worked with guys like Steve Berlin. I'll get him the most killer drum sound. But the one thing I know about Steve Berlin is that he's going to want to hear the drums from the other side of the room. He's one of those guys. It's like, man, that's awesome, but what would they sound like over there? And
so do you intentionally set up in the wrong place the first time?
Well, no, because he's going to know that too. Because but it's like, I know not to say no to him. But I also know, like going in, like that adventure is part of the gig.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's an adventure. If I'm so fixed as to say that this drum sound's the best drum sound you're ever going to get, he needs to hear it for himself.
Yeah.
So I have to learn how to like go, all right, if I move these, I need to know how to get that drum sound back if I move it back over to the other. Because if I move it there and he says, no, I liked it back there, I can't be like pissed off about it.
Right.
You can't. You can, but it's not going to work.
It's not. And either way, you're not going to, I mean, so maybe you won't get the same drum sound the second time, but you'll get something else.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I'm so fixed and so nailed to the floor about stuff, you don't know what you're going to,
Well,
that's the thing. That's part of the part of the deal is like just being willing, like willingness, like being willing to just go, all right, you want me to try something different? You want me to do this? Like
not holding on so tightly. I mean, that's the thing I see with a lot of kids I work with. Everything is sacrosanct. Every word they come up with, every note. Don't touch that. That's perfect. It's like, okay, you want to go through history and let's talk about how many things changed. So I wanted to bring up a story. I got a call from a producer friend of mine. I'm going to have to do the that will remain unnamed on this one. And it's a superstar woman, a singer, artist. She's written a song, and she didn't like the way it came out. She wants to know if you'll take a crack at it. So he sends me a basic drum beat with her vocal and her playing acoustic guitar, right? And, like, this artist is not one of my favorite artists. I mean, she's great, but it's not something I would put on and listen to. But this song, I think her writing sometimes is kind of one-dimensional. This song is like so cool. Where the vocal falls is so in between and cool. And I got so inspired. I made this track. Not that this is gonna blow people's minds. I listened to it. I thought this is done. This is just gonna go on the record like this. I sent it in. The engineer has moved the vocal 2 beats by accident with what he sent me. I arranged the whole song over a vocal that was 2 beats off. And it sounds great. It sounds great. So they go, you got to shift the vocal back. Well, I shift the vocal back. Well, now it goes back to why I didn't really like this artist, because it's just da 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 da. I'm like, no, you got to put it back. I said, we have her listen to it once with 2 beats off, and there's no way. There's no way she would go with it. And it was just better. So there's a happy accident that got flushed down the toilet, okay?
I love that.
2 beats off. And I worked for like 4 days on this thing. I'm like, how did you not know the vocal was off by 2 beats? Oh.
I don't know, but I love that because, it proves once again, man, being open to working with whatever you get, and not having this whole, this very tight mindset.
But even more than being open, I'm like, wow, her writing has gotten so much better.
I used to do that. I used to do that all the time in the studio where you just like randomly mute something, like not even like seriously, like as a joke. Like you'll be like, this song would sound a lot better, and you just mute something, and wait a second, what was that? What'd you do? Yeah. You go, no, do that again. Like, oh, really? Okay.
Well, maybe not.
This goes back all the way back to like one of my earliest gigs when I got off the road, because I was the guy that said yes to everything. Like I said yes to Richie Zito when he asked me to go down and work for Giorgio Moroder, and I was working for the Captain and Tennille, running their studio, doing Mellencamp, doing a bunch of stuff. Anyway, so I end up down in Giorgio Moroder's studio, and Giorgio was the king of. He would say to his engineers, "Don't think, just do." He would go, "Don't think, just do," and so we were like mixing a record, Zig Zig Sputnik, and what Giorgio had figured out, because he was the king of like milli measuring the drum machine and stuff, so he knew that at this tempo it's this much tape and all this, so he was having us mix a certain amount of bars, like you'd mix and then he'd cut and you'd throw those pieces of tape on the floor, and you'd mix and he'd figure out 8 bars, you throw that onto the floor, and
wow,
and then we would randomly pick up the tape off the floor and edit it in, and these mixes were, some of these mixes are built out of tape just cut, thrown on the floor, and then randomly picked up and put back in, and you'd know that this many feet is that many bars, and
it was perfect.
And sometimes it'd be like, no, I don't like that, take that apart. Oh no, that's great. And so on this record, there are mixes that are built on literally pieces of mixes edited together like a patchwork quilt, but completely unplanned what you're going to get. And when you listen back, man, I could point to you which songs are like, and I've had people say to me, oh man, that record's, how did you ever, it's completely random. Some of that shit is like just completely random.
That's an accident, if you think about it, but it's one you were open to.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just doing, though.
Doing.
I was just doing. I was
doing,
like,
not thinking, just
don't
doing.
Think, just do.
Yeah. Love it. Well, gentlemen, thank you for sharing your anecdotes. I think the lesson here is just be open. Be open-minded to whatever happens, right?
Don't think you're smarter than you are. Because you know what? The universe has got a plan, and you got no control over it. So you might as well go with it. That's what I'm going to leave you with.
I like that.
And your ass is going to get whooped if you think. Because the universe is going to go, I got you.
That's right. You think you know. Yep.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Ross
man.
Hogarth, CJ Vanston, thank you for being my guest.
Great seeing you, Ross. I love you.
I love you, CJ.
All right.
We've had a lot of fun. We laugh. When we're in the studio, man, we laugh.
You better.
Yeah.
If it becomes a job, then you're not having
I've
fun.
got a saying. When you see people laughing in the control room, you know the music sounds good. Because if the music sucks, nobody's laughing.
Oh, really
right.
quick one. I knew we weren't done. I'm engineering the Lukather record for CJ that he produced. Beautiful record, and they had cast drummers. They had like picked, this drummer's going to be great for this song, and this drummer's great.
Smith
Chad Smith, Greg Bissonette, Tos Panos. So, and Bissonette is one of our best friends in life. I mean, he's the sweetest, nicest, most awesome dude. And this song is like in 11/8 or some crazy thing.
Oh, God.
And so, you know, Bissonette's trying to figure out how to play this darn thing. And CJ says, after one take, CJ says, you know, Greg goes, you know, how was it? How is it? And CJ goes, yeah, Greg, it's cool. You know, come on in and you can bring your stick bag.
Ow.
just you know, I mean, we're kidding.
Let me
but-
write up this
roast
pink
each
slip
other,
while
yeah.
you're out. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I remember, and Chad played a take, and he's such an angry drummer, and he gets done. It's this massive take, and I just went on the talk by. I said, "Is everything okay at home?"
Do you want to talk about it?
And so
We can go on and on with that shit.
we had so
All
much
right.
fun. All right, man.
All right, we're out
Thanks
of
for
here.
having us.
Thanks for being had.
You got it.
Hey, I'm Daniel Keller. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us each week for Insights in Sound.